Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our 8th edition of Cyber Talk, weekly cyber lectures by professionals around the world. And my name is Tal Pavel. I'm the host, Cyber Director, the Institute of Cyber Policy Studies, and I have the honor to have with us today Miss Claudia Victoria Nicolae, the General Director of Romanian news agency AGERPRES. Good morning, Claudia.
Good morning, Tal. And first of all, thank you very much for your kindly invitation. And let's begin with the hot news. And I assure you that is not a fake news.
Uh,
Bucharest will host next year the European Cybersecurity Competence Center. And it's a pleasure and a joy for our country because I think that cybersecurity is very, very important in those years, in those moments. In fact, it's very important in infodemia and after truth area and all those terms who are so new and so complicated for us.
Indeed, indeed.
Uh, let's say my general background is in journalism. I worked like journalist 16 years, and I was reporter, chief reporters, political side chief, uh, editor chief at newspapers, news agencies, televisions too. So my interest for fake news and for disinformation and for misinformation is not coming from nowhere. I worked with information all those years and I work also now. And I think that it's very important for all to try to educate the people because I suppose and I'm sure that we are from here all specialists, but usual normal people are not knowing all the things that involving fake news, disinformation, propaganda, and misinformation. Of course, all we know that is not new for us that existing propaganda, disinformation, or misinformation. But I think that fake news is something new. It's appeared in our vocabulary, I think, since 2016.
Yeah,
Also,
since the presidential election,
yes,
la-
also in the Oxford Dictionary.
yeah. With your permission, Claudia, I will read your bio for our audience. Claudia Victoria Nicolae is the managing director of AGERPRES, the Romanian national news agency, since November 2018. Her mission is to manage the entire activity of the journalists and editors of the biggest news agency in Romania, while also being the representative in relations and collaboration with other national and international organizations, both public or private. Claudia Nicolae's objective is to create and to preserve the framework the journalists from AGERPRES need to deliver accurate news so that the general public receives the most reliable and meaningful information possible. Prior to being managing director, Ms. Nicolae was an experienced journalist. She started working as a reporter in 2004, covering political news, and year by year, her career developed to being the coordinator of the political news department of a news television in 2011. And 5 years later, she was appointed Deputy Managing Director of AGERPRES. Claudia Nicolae has a degree in journalism, but she is specialized as well in foreign policy, diplomacy, security, and administration, with various training sessions graduated from the Romanian Diplomatic Institute or the National Defense College. Yeah, so uh, we started to speak about fake news, and you know, it's reminded me that in one of the conferences, um, I realized I needed to speak about fake news, and I realized that perhaps the name fake news is not necessarily accurate, because it's not only fake and it's not only news. So I call it in my presentation digital manipulation, because
Yes.
fake news, well, it's not only news, it can be not only written news, it can be also what we know as deep fake. It can be video clips, it can be images and photos, but it not only need to be fake, because if you take a real image and a real story and give them new meaning, you create a new story, but with a genuine effect and a genuine image. So what is fake news? I think we need to define what is fake news. That's why I call it digital
In
manipulation.
my opinion, but I may be subjective because I'm journalist. When you say news, you say something about a real fact. By definition, news is presenting a real fact. When you say fake news, where is the real? Where is the fact? So, in my opinion, I think that fake news, like a term, was creating just to demonetize the news. In my opinion, because I think that we had also disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda, who are, let's say, some synonym. But fake news, it's directed straight to the news. So maybe it was created like a bubble to do for normal people, for reading, normal reading, not journalists, not specialists, just normal people, to do not trust so much to the traditional news, to create a bubble, to put there all the facts, all the news, and all the information together. But I think that this this is for me a dangerous thing for this profession, for journalist profession, because we, like a journalist, we write and we think coordinated by the ontological code. For us, a news is not emotional news like it's disinformation or propaganda. For us, a news is a news. So the connected made between fake and news for me is not so real and has one target too. That I prefer to put fake news in some quotation marks, because it's not a proper term in my opinion. But it's a term. If you ask someone about fake news, I think that it's no one in this world that is not hear that term.
But on the other hand, I think, as you said, we need to define what is fake news. And that's why when I needed, I use the term digital manipulation, because I thought about it. It's not only fake, it's not only news, but you are right. And your presentation and lecture will be on fake news and botnets as a cybersecurity challenge. I'll give you a host privilege in order you will be able to present your presentation.
Thank you. Let me share with you. So, first of all, I think that in 2020 or 2020 is very, very properly to speak about fake news, about this subject, because now more than ever we are spending most of our times online. And also, we have to admit that in 2020, health crisis had determined a deep shift within the global context, highlighting the impact of digitization and the substantial need for technology-related adherence to each and every sector of media. And I tried to stop a little bit here because this year we faced with a new term, infodemia. Infodemia. So we had this year so much information, so contrary information, so under ask mark information that human right doesn't know what is true or what is false. And I think that this was a worst part of disinformation and propaganda this year, because we don't speak about political propaganda now. We don't speak about political disinformation. We were in a war, properly war, with health, human health, because we saw, and I'm sure that everybody saw the news or the information on social media, on all the platforms, who spoke about uh, natural treating home, who spoke about don't go to the hospital, stay home and take some natural treat, but don't go to the hospital. I think that this is the major danger for all the people. And this is, in my opinion, the point that every people has to stop a little when they saw some information like this, and have to discern in their minds, in their thoughts, what is really and what is not. This year, we faced with this infodemia. And of course, with the ICT integration, the networks of people across the globe became consistently more interconnected and able to share and to spread all sorts of information online. Here it's another problem, in my opinion, because we started to think and to trust more than official news. We started to think our friends share, our friends share, and this is also a danger for information and for real news, in my opinion. Also, the human capital as an economic resources confirmed the new scenario in the independent entity, autonomous, interactive, and focused on value and quality. Let's pass away. Fake news publishers make a huge social impact as well as large profits through the spread of information. Here I think that we can talk and we can debate, in my opinion, about the technological system. Why that? Because in my point of view, I think that we find a huge fight for interpretation. And we have also, I think, some weapons. Psychological operation, battle for interpretation, and also the big changes brought about by the amazing rise of social media platforms. All this significant change shift everything from the perspective of information aspects. And now I think that it's very important to speak about a little about the news process. When we talk about traditional news process, we have to talk sorry, we have to talk about assumed professional creators, editors, editorial control, short sources, assumed distribution. But if we talk about internet age news process, we can see together amateur and professional creators, no filters to verify true or false, no limit in amplifying the information. And here are the social media platforms. And I think that we all agree that most of the people have come to realize that platforms and social media are double-edged swords. It's not my intention, and I'm not trying to demonize the platforms. This is far from me. We need it. We need the many point of view. But I think that they have changed the informational environment toward some dark sides. Fake news and disinformation are everywhere on the internet. The researchers speak about epistemological crisis. And in all this context, a question remains. What even happened to the truth? Is the truth that we know and the way that we understand things? Also, the researcher speak, and also the introduction of fake news term came with the post-truth area. Instead, if we use reality or facts from this point of view, I'm sure were we in the post-truth area society, because the battle of truth described the humankind in general. But I think that what is new today is the fact that we are living in the post-fact environment. We are living in a post-written text environment. We consume information through a lot of visual materials or through a lot broadcasting.
By the way, Claudia, would you like to share the presentation with us?
I didn't share it.
No, you didn't. That's why I asked. I know you have a very nice and visualized presentation. That's why I asked whether you want to share it with us.
Yes. Let me. Okay, I'm here.
Yes. Okay. Just that's it. This button.
Yes.
Marvelous.
So now I was just here. Okay, so let's see. I talk about writing information and writing text. So writing is not that much important as it used to be when we were in school. Or now we see a major change. Now the information, it's seen targeting upcoming from everywhere. If you open the phone, you have some information. If you open the Facebook, you have some information. If you open the TV, you have also some information. So the information is pretty much everywhere, but our attention remains the same. And our thinking, our power to digest all the information remain the same. Was one very cute presentation that said that human race has the habit to eat a little, but to drink very much. Now, in this area, we eat a lot and we don't have time to drink all this. So I think that this is quite similar in these years when we receive very much information and we don't have such time to digest this information, to put these informations in our filters, our personal filters. So Let's move on. Okay, I will make this minimum. Okay, so social media is represented by massive marketplace where ideas and news compete for our attention. So we spread the spread of component by our very human nature will compel us to engage with inflammatory content and often share before we've had the time to fact check and verify what we said before. And in all those contexts, let's see a very, very old phrase, a very old phrase. Everything we hear, it's an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see, it's a perspective, not a truth. This can create the idea that there are factors for every interpretation. Everything that happens right now, you can find it in one fact or the other. Each are going into background of different information. That it's very important to see because, in my opinion, it's very important, like a pillar, the background of each generation. And for this, I think that to see a little how generations use platforms, media, social media, is very important to think who are the generations that we have to talk more. And to analyze this new phenomenon, we have to analyze also the media consumption. What we can see? We can see here 4 categories of generations. Z generations, who are between 8 and 23 years old. Millennials or Gen U, who are between 25 and 39 years old. Gen X, who are between 40 and 55 years old, and baby boomers, 55 and 75 years old. We can see here very, very clearly that the youngest choose to use Instagram as a platform to follow brands. Baby boomers spend more of their time on YouTube or Facebook feed. Gen Z and Gen U, millennials and Gen X selected YouTube as a platform they rely on marketing decisions. And also regarding the social media consumption, we can see the generation who is growing up in the digital world and is not surprised that they are pretty savvy when it comes to online and technology. And we see also the millennials and baby boomers who spend very, very much time on traditional platforms. Let's say YouTube, who is not so new. Let's say television, who is not so new. Also, we have some marks who show us how is online videos comparing to video games or press. We can see now, and it's very important that press books remains very lower, and this curse for information, it's very important in this part. Broadcasting TV, video games also for the youngers, and online TV. And now, sources, spread, and challenges. I think that it's very important to point it what is fake news and what fake news is described. Oxford Dictionary described fake news like false report or events written and read on website. Many of you seems unable to distinguish fake news from verified source. Also, fake news was creating like a significant point for public confusion about current events. Also, Oxford Dictionary speak about post-truth, and this from 2016. And why we speak like this? Because, like I said before, this year is the year that fake news represents, like I don't know how to say, an important word. From this year, we don't speak so. Yes.
Buzzword. It was a buzzword.
Yes. Also a password.
Buzzword. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry.
Let me. No. It's okay. Interrupt me if you have something. So, but in this area, new area, fake news was helped, let's say helped, by bots, by artificial intelligence. And what is bots? We know very well that bots are computer algorithms that work in online social network sites to execute some task in repetitive mode. They simulate the behavior of human being in a social network. Because of the algorithm behind bots logic, bots can learn for response pattern or input value how to respond to certain situation. And have bots help in the propagation of fake news? We can say yes, because artificial intelligence allows bots to simulate internet user behavior. And we know we have very common Facebook example. If you see on Facebook some advertising or some topic, you will receive from Facebook that kind of topics to that kind of products to, and there is how bots can also helping in propagation of fake news. So also bots generate debate by posting message about trending topics. Also, the spread of fake news on social bots is possible to the capability that bots have to search and retrieve non-accurate information. Also, bots spread fake news in two ways. They keep saying or tweeting false news items, and they use the same pieces or false information to reply to our comments on our posting of real social media users. Both techniques work because average social media users tend to believe that they see or what's shared by others without question. But bots aren't apparently that good at deciding what original comments by other users to retweet. They are not so smart, and this is a lack for us, I think. But who knows in the future how smart we'll be. If you have some question, you are free to interrupt me.
I see there are interruptions from George. I think I cannot, only you can, since you are the host, only you can mute it. I think it's,
Let me see.
yeah, I think it's an interruption from George. I would like to ask one or two questions, but perhaps it will be for later on. I would like to, whether you can, not necessarily now, it can be at the end of your presentation, to elaborate two things. First of all, fake news during the coronavirus, and especially fake news in Romania, and whether you faced fake news and fake news, as you mentioned, it's not only fake news, it's disinformation and manipulation and propaganda and so on and so forth. And I don't know if you if there are evidence, but we know there were several cases of let's call it nation state actors, fake disinformation. And we know the case of the crucified boy in Ukraine, and we know the case of Lisa case in Germany, that the fingers were pointed to Russia.
Yes, and also even it's not so far, but it's a old topic. Don't forget Pizzagate in America,
Yes, yes, yes,
USA.
indeed, indeed.
Okay, let's go forward. I can't see the question, but I will follow after.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so how people help to spread the fake news? I think that what is new in all these contexts is that the companies and the technology can clearly divide the world in black or white. For example, I think that in each country or each region, but let's see in each country, we have a proper bubble. In our bubble, we receive some kind of information, and another country who has another bubble receive another kind of information. So in this context, two countries or two bubbles of people are using a very, very opposite information. And if you ask who has the right information, you couldn't say, because this is what I think that it's very important to mark and to point. The background, the proper background, the individual background is very, very important to digest all kind of information. So people are smart, but people are emotional, because fake news, comparative or disinformation or misinformation or propaganda, in comparative with the traditional news, it's using very much emotional marks. Like a journalist, I can say that you can't read the news using emotional marks, because the news is a real fact, an objective fact, and you are obliged to present the real fact without any personal or any subjective influence. But fake news is not like this, and fake news is winning much of people, because he acting like emotional information. And I can say here also that bots might still exist in the future, because we all agree with that. The technology will not stop here. But most of the time, we spread or fake news is a consequence of real people, usually acting innocently, because we don't know what we are using. All of us, as usual, are potential the biggest part of the problem. And the role emotion plays when it comes to sharing news in social media are reading true news, mostly proceed feelings of joyful, unhappiness, expectation, and trust. Reading fake news produces feelings of amazement, anxiety, shock, and repulsion. And here we can come at your examples. Yes, fake news can, and I think that it's one of his duty, can create violence. And this is very, very dangerous for us. Also, social media are marks humans more susceptible to fake news, and this is popularity indicators that social networks provide. Also, the research shows that people are more likely to share fake news than real news. For that, we speak about emotional information, because we read and we share those information with our sources, with our soul, with our proper feelings, and this is not okay. We have much to work on this chapter. Let's go. What's next? I think that it's a point of view, and it's a beginning of discussion with micro-targeting. We see now how social media is attending of, how social graphics are, how our offline data presents. But I think that micro-targeting is a big issue, and it's important pillar in fake news, in all those fake news areas, because it's not just one, like I was saying. And how fake news is propagating. We know by Facebook, Google, other websites who track the users and who analyze the website to see who is visited and what topic has that individual. And also there are some firms that specialize in analyzing your data and using your data. And now we have to speak also of some measures that European Commissions put in our discussion and in our practice until 2015. And there are some measures, let's say some code of practice of this information. It's not finally code. It is working, it is still working on it. But I think that it's a point where we can start at the institutional level to fight against this fake news, disinformation, propaganda. Also, I can present you some measures for awareness and education that AGERPRES is using every time, and a little bit of our mission. AGERPRES is the national news agency, and he has the mission to inform properly and objectively, providing the Romanian press as well as the media abroad. Also, we realize and are responsible of the facts that the pieces of information we deliver reach millions of people, and that in addition to information, our role is also to bring awareness and even to educate at the sessions time set. In 2016, AGERPRES launched a cybersecurity section, which contains news dedicated to the strategic problems of cybersecurity and cyberspace. Also, AGERPRES launched the Cyber Files editorial projects, which included the presentation of some of the most important cyber attacks worldwide, which had repercussions on small or medium-sized companies, corporations, governments, or institutions of national interest, but also on home users. Like this is our project in Romania now, in Romanian language now. Also, we dedicated journalist materials and we organized together with the Romanian National Computer Security Incident Response Team cybersecurity courses for journalists, for both AGERPRES journalists and all those with the national and local media. And I think that Trojan horse is also a fake news, like we know, and also a virus. Thank you. You have here my email contact if you want, and I'm waiting for your question and to develop the debate.
Yeah, well, no debate. But yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you very much. It was very interesting and a visual presentation. I would like to elaborate with you fake news in Romania. Well, what can you tell us about fake news generally in Romania? What is there any pattern of fake news in Romania? Is it made for political purposes? Is it from one political figure against another one? Is it made by nation state actors? What is the environment of fake news in Romania as far as we know and you can tell?
Yes, I think that like all the countries, Romania faced also with this phenomenon. And we had this year two sections of election in our country, local one and general one. And these elections was, let's say, full of fake news according the social platforms. Also, the COVID-19 creates a very big market for fake news, but the national institution saw this at time and create some official platforms who promote the official news. Let's say the government create the one online site where they put all their information, all their answering, all their communicators that people has to from the first hand the information. Also, the Ministry of Defense create a page dedicated to false information and present the false information and the right information in both cases. And was many conferences and debates in Romania on this new phenomenon. Was creating, let's say, on Facebook and on online page dedicated anti-fake news, where you can read and can learn and can see some example of fake news and how to verify your information and how to be very attentively of information that you receive. So though this year I think that was the top of this new phenomenon, and Romania, like all the countries, tried to promote or to create some issues, some fields that this phenomenon can be not stopped, but at least remove a little.
Yes. Do we have any question to Claudia from you, the attendees, George, Michal, Aiton?
Hi, Claudia. Hi, Tal. How are you?
Hi, fine, thank you.
I'll put the video. Sorry, I'm not
Yes.
organized. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Tal is my first webinar with you, but we know way back. And I wanted to say thank you very much for your presentation. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see the development. It's wonderful to see the age groups that are affected. We know from Israel that it's a real battle. We have very little awareness. We have
I think that this is the point, special point.
The awareness
Education
component.
and awareness.
The awareness component, because here you said journalism is not emotional, but as you know, Israel and emotion is a parallel name. So journalists are emotional, and their wording is emotional. Therefore, the news are never just an expression of what is happening, but opinions mixed with predictions and etc. So our job as viewers is much harder to navigate through all the sea of emotions that we see in a report to understand what is happening and to understand the context. I wanted to ask about education because I know that Eastern Europe is more advanced than us, especially for the youngster. I mean, we've seen examples of schools that are being educated how to identify.
In Norway, they begin from elementary school to speak and to learn about fake news.
Right. I wanted to ask because Romania is in a very fragile situation, also, as you said, politically, but also as a strategic area in Eastern Europe and or Europe as a general. Do you have any knowledge of plans, or does your news agency operate seminars for youngsters in any age or people to the public about this information, how to use the tools that you just gave us, or showed us how they can be used for future reference, to show them that they can see with their eyes what they read and then use their minds to understand it further. I'd really like to know, because this is a subject that I've been quite obsessed about, and I'm allergic to disinformation in any sort of form. But as you said, I think the term fake news is too narrow and therefore does not comprehend the whole development of information that we see, whether on the web or in newspapers, reports. And therefore, I'm really interested in education because I believe we are already too late to address our generation. So I'm thinking about the future, because the future is going to be even more confusing.
Yes.
And maybe it's time that we take example from countries that are more aware than us, and even make corporations so we can learn from experts like you to pass this on for the younger generation.
I'm just journalist.
Yeah, you know.
But we faced also, like you, with this phenomenon, and it's hard for us also to get in this battle when you promote and you try to share the real news and the real fact. You have also to fight with the unreal fact.
Yeah. You have to have an army of true colors.
Yes.
Yeah, I am aware of that. So
let's say about education in Romania, it's not now in elementary school this curricula or these courses, but in university they begin, in all the university, let's say journalism university, science university, to speak about fake news, to make some courses with specialists in fake news, to try to divide real or false news. But also, I know that it's a pilot project in Romania, made by Center of Independent Journalism. It's an association, a very important association in Romania, who made the pilot project and who presented to Ministry of Education, and they agree with the association that next year to begin optional curricula in schools, like media information, like learning what is media, what is information, how we have to read the informations or the news, or how to control, or how to see the impact of our individual thought in front of fake news. Because yes, I agree with you, we like adults, we have our background, we have let's say our base when we digest information. But the youngers, they for this I insisted on generation, because the Z generation is the generation who was born in an online society, in a platform society. They took from there all their backgrounds. And maybe like Church in Romania made some videos for very, very young children. How you have to use your internet, how you must to protect from virus. For like this, I think that we can create also some videos made on their attention to explain all these facts, all these phenomena. I think also that it's important, like family, and I think that we need every individual help, because every man has to see on his own thoughts what is true, and he can explain also to his or her child.
True. I wanted to share with you why I think why I asked this question is in high school we had one day session about media and journalism. It was at a time with no internet and no cell phones. And I remember clearly the one thing that is still ingrained in my mind, that they showed us a report about some news report from Israel, and they dissected it, and they showed that the video was not new video. They showed that the headline had repeated itself several times in the past, and they said that the components fixed together do not necessarily show the truth, but the idea of what is happening. And I think this set in my conscience or subconscious for many, many years. And it just came out in the recent years, as you said, because the internet has become powerful and the networks.
But you have your own background, the children doesn't.
Well, it's amazing when things come out in your mind, when you start feeling, even though we talked about emotions in Jerusalem, but when you start feeling that you are being navigated to think, and you need to inherit this free thinking and independent research tool to understand that what's the headline has not necessarily to do with the actual report.
Yes.
What you read.
Click by titles.
And for me it's easier because I studied it since I started to have those red lights in my head. What am I seeing? Do I need to further see what is happening? And I have to say, this is really something that I want the public to know. So, I mean, what you suggested, even for the children and the parents, is a wonderful way to educate the parents while they educate their children. And I'm really glad to hear about the pilot programs, and I hope that they go well and we can learn from them when we read the reports from you and hear from you in the future. So thank you again.
Thank you also.
Thank you, Michal. Do we have any questions from George or Ethan?
No questions. Well, thank you for the really interesting session.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ethan. It was very interesting. So if well, I do have several questions, but I will not take more from your time. Thank you so much, Ms. Claudia Nicolae, for your time and presentation, and very enlightening, and the conversation that we have and your contribution. Thank you so much, and see you next week in our next session of Cyber Talks number 9. So once again, thank you very much, and for all of you, happy Hanukkah, and
happy Hanukkah for you too.
Yeah, have all the bless and all the health and all the light and everything, and good luck with the new government in Romania, and of course the winning of the Center of Cybersecurity of European Union. Yeah,
this is a big news.
Indeed, yeah. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, it was a pleasure.
And see you all next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.